and John XYZ said this to me, and then Tucker did this to me, and oh, now I'm just thinking John Tucker, the movie was that. I put those two names together. Anyway. Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Yasmin and I am your virtual BFF, the long-awaited friend that everybody needs on the internet, which is me. So welcome to my channel. I am still very extremely teensy weensy bit small, so please do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. Well, actually you're doing yourself a favor too, because when you subscribe you are joining the virtual BFF family, and now you have a virtual BFF and someone that you can always come to and watch the videos if you ever need advice, tips, or tricks on everything in life to help you grow and succeed and become the best version of yourself. So please do yourself a favor and hit the subscribe button and leave a positive comment down below, hit a thumbs up button, and help this channel grow because everyone needs a virtual BFF. So today's video is all about early relationship fails. You're trying to get into a relationship, you're trying to find the perfect person, but it's always failing, especially in the beginning. You're always hitting roads, bumps, blocks, whatever you call it, barriers that are wreaking havoc in your relationship. And I'm going to pinpoint and help you realize why the early dating stages are failing and how you can overcome it. And see, this is exactly why you need a virtual BFF. So if you haven't already hit the subscribe button, what are you waiting for? So one of the first and major reasons why early dating fails in the beginning is lack of respect for personal space or boundaries. And what does this usually look like? This looks like the other person, significant other, or even you are disregarding the person's personal space. You're pushing for things such as physical intimacy, for certain relationship milestones, or constantly testing boundaries. Example, you're trying to pressure the other person, or the other person's pressuring you to do certain things that they don't want to do or they're not ready to do yet. And this can be anything such as intimacy, such as going out and spending a certain amount of money or meeting the person's family, and they're not ready. So why does it matter to have important personal space and boundaries? Is that healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, is respecting the other person's boundaries and space, and the other person also respecting your personal space and boundaries. Now, this does not mean for someone to take advantage of you. For you, for example, as a woman, is to completely respect his boundaries and space and not to have the man respect you as well. For example, if the man knows that you are wanting to get married and you are looking to have kids, and basically you are in the dating game, you have marriage and kids, but he's just looking to have a good time, that is called disrespecting personal space and boundaries. So basically he's just taking everything that he wants from you without giving you anything in return. Don't put yourself in a position where you're respecting everything the man wants, where you give him all the time, all the boundaries, everything he needs, but you're not getting anything. All of your boundaries are pushed, all of your no personal space, you're always feeling disrespected. So it has to come both ways. There has to be personal boundaries and space, and it's very important to communicate these things to one another. So early dating relationships fail when a lot of times, and you'll usually hear both parties talk about it, she was too clingy, she was too pushy, this person was avoiding me, barely texted me. There's just a whole maze of issues going on with personal boundaries and space, which leads to inconsistent communication, which is the second reason why relationships fail in the early dating phases. So this really means inconsistent calls or texts where one person texts and the other person responds hours later, or responds with one word, or there's just very inconsistent communication. And I think a lot of the inconsistent communication happens over text, because a lot of times we don't hear the person's tone of voice, and so we interpret it how our minds want to interpret it, and then that's where the stories and the drama, and did you see what he said, did you see how he responded at this time and he only said this, and then everyone's screenshotting and then everyone's sharing to try to get their opinion of what this person could have meant through this text, and then it turns into a whole fiasco. So it's really important to feel like the person or the other party is putting in an effort to communicate. If you feel like there is no effort, I would always bring it up nicely. The first step is communicating, saying, hey, I feel like there isn't an effort with your communication. If you're not the best text savvy person, then it would be more respectful to call me. But if I'm not getting a call or a text, I'm only going to say this once, the relationship won't move forward, and I won't even message you to end it. You'll just take it that my silence as the relationship's over. Let the person know that, hey, I'm giving you a warning. We're in the early dating stages or the getting to know you stages, and I'm already feeling that there's issues with communicating. So if I don't feel like you are putting in an effort to communicate, then we can either end it, or you can improve and show me the best ways you can communicate. Not everyone's tech savvy, so give them benefit of the doubt, especially men. A lot of men are not tech savvy, and that's sometimes always a better sign, because you don't want a guy that's like, to me that would be like, well, how would I know if you're talking to girls or not if you're like so smooth and tech savvy and just always on your phone? So I would prefer someone, a man in general for me, that would actually take the time to call me and speak to me and use his voice. So don't just rely on one form of communication. It's important to have many forms of communication. If your relationship is solely based on text, that is not a good sign that your relationship is going to last. So really focus on forms of communication. Phone calls, text, face-to-face, video. Don't just want to hear, you want to see how they're reacting, how they're presenting yourself to you, how they're moving their hands when they talk to you. Those are all forms of communication. So it's very, very important that you pay attention and that you are consistent with all forms of communication. And ladies, if you are having any issues in a relationship and you need to text the other person, about the problem, don't send a long voice note, because a lot of times the person can be busy or driving or working and they're not really listening to what you're saying. If you need to really get something off your chest, do it in person, do it face to face. Make sure the person is available to you, sitting in front of you, and then talk about those issues. So that's why it's important to have consistent communication and be clear in the beginning what types of communication are important to you. For example, if someone is texting you, I love you, over text in the early stages, why are they not telling you face to face? Why to them do they feel like you deserve to be told you're loved over text instead of through phone call or face to face? So you also need to set boundaries with forms of communication. If someone's just love bombing you through text and then you see them in person or in the phone call, they're just silent, that's not a good sign. So it's very important to really establish, again, the boundaries when it comes to communicating over text, especially when you are getting to know someone who is not the most talkative over text or phone. That doesn't mean the person's bad. I have friends that are in marriages with men who weren't the most tech savvy. So when the girl would text in the beginning, the guy would respond one word, and then there would be a whole dramatic fiasco of how the girl thought the guy didn't care, but he would show her in other ways of how he cared. There are men out there who, just don't say much. They don't say much, and that's okay. They can show you their love in other ways, through other actions, through other things. Everyone expresses love differently, but it's important to establish those in the beginning and not to feel neglected. You don't have to force the person to, just keep like talking and saying things. You just need to make sure that the communication is open, there's respect, that you are being respected in the forms of communication that you prefer. For example, if you prefer to have phone calls, then the person should call you. If the person prefers to meet face to face, then you need to meet face to face. So have those conversations about the best way to communicate and follow them, and respect each other with how you both parties want to be communicated with. Texts are okay, but if you have a whole conversation through text, a lot of times it becomes misinterpreted and miscommunicated, and it can hurt a lot of feelings. So it's really important when there's deep conversations, pick up the phone, be like, hey, let's talk, let's hear each other. Because there's feelings when it comes to hearing someone's voice. So communication is super important, and it fails, and dating and relationships always fail in the beginning is because they lack the skills to communicate. And it's really important, and it's tied to personal space and boundaries, because the person isn't respecting how you prefer to be talked to or spoken to, vice versa. So it's really important in the early stages, be like, hey, and especially if you feel like you met a good match and you really want this to work, have these conversations. Like, I need to know, and like, how the best way to speak to you, to talk to you, is it through text, through phone call, face to face, and vice versa. They also need to know what you are more comfortable with, what makes the person feel like you are putting in an effort, and what makes the other person feel like you're not putting in an effort. So just make sure you have those conversations, and every day, if you really want a relationship to work, you will talk about it. You will talk about it even if it's difficult. So I really, really hope as your virtual BFF that you finally understand the importance to have and to practice skilled and consistent communication and to respect the other person's method of communicating. It's not about, again, it's not about forcing words. And a lot of times us girls in particular, struggle with men who send one worded text. Now, it can either be because they're just not the most chit chatty over text, or because they're completely neglecting you. So before you make assumptions about who this person is, look at their other forms of communication. Are they calling you? Are they reaching out to you? Are they making time to see you and spend time with you? Those are all forms of communication. But if this person isn't responding through text, isn't making the effort to call you, isn't making the effort to see you, then just take it as a hint that this person is not putting in an effort, and you shouldn't either. But don't just focus on one form of communication, like this person is great in all areas, but he only sends me one word of text. It just means he's not the most text savvy, or he's just not the most chit chatty over text. But if he's showing you his other forms of communication in person or through phone call when you actually hear his voice, those are all good signs. So don't just pressure someone like, oh, you have to text me a poem of poetry, Shakespeare, in order for this to work. You don't want to just focus on one form of communication, focus on all of them, and just watch how your relationship will flourish. Now, obviously, if this person really loves you and really wants to make you happy, he will try to be more conversational through text. I'm sure he'll try to write you a poem or some sweet words, but look at the whole picture. Don't just look at, oh, he sent me one text. Look at the whole picture. If this person isn't messaging you at all in any form of communication or making the effort to see you, then take it as a sign to leave. And the third reason why a relationship fails in the early stages is the excessive complaining and negativity. When you're in the early stages of the relationship, you do want to put on your best self. For yourself and for the other. If you start the relationship complaining about everything that goes wrong in your life, how are you supposed to carry this relationship long-term goal? The goal of to be in a relationship is to, build a life and future together. But if you're basically just putting all the weight and all the baggage of everything you've been through on this relationship, it's going to fail. If you're talking about every ex and all the cheating and all the scandals and how this person said this and this person said that, you're taking something beautiful and you are tearing it apart because of your past. It's important to have a positive outlook on your relationship, and especially the relationship that you are starting. You don't want to take your past experiences and put all your expectations, it's going to fail because this happened to me, and John XYZ said this to me, and then Tucker did this to me, and oh, now I'm just thinking John Tucker, the movie was that. I put those two names together. Anyways, the point is, don't take everything bad that happened to you and bring it into the next relationship. If you got hurt, if you have trust issues, if you have any type of issue that will make it hard to trust somebody, to be open and willing to accept them as a partner, you need to first solve those and overcome those conflicts and then get into a relationship. But don't get into a relationship if in the back of your mind you're going to keep setting expectations. This person's going to cheat. This person's going to leave me. He's not going to be there for me. He's did this to me. He ignored me. He didn't text back at a certain time. This is just like my previous ex-boyfriend. Don't set yourself up for a disaster. And this is why a lot of relationships fail in the beginning, is they put themselves in a new relationship when they have not healed and they have not, I would say, resolved or even overcome or addressed the underlying issues that are going on internally because of previous relationships or certain life situations. So it's very important when you go into a relationship that you go in with the full trust in yourself that you are willing to give this person another chance, and you are not going to keep comparing or to be hesitant because of previous relationships. You can't change the past, but you can change the future, and you can choose to write yourself a good story with a good partner to make yourself happy and whole and just love yourself and love the person you want to be with. So have those expectations for yourself. It's really important to make sure that you are emotionally and physically mature enough to go into a relationship. So these are the tips as to why your relationship is failing in the early stages. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more. And again, thank you for watching and supporting your virtual BFF. That's me. And stay tuned for more videos. If you haven't subscribed already, what are you waiting for?